Okay, now it's recording. So we're welcoming everyone. We had some technical difficulties, but this is a reshoot, so welcome. Let's just get into this. Whoa, okay, so that happened. Got to watch yourself on these webinars. It's dangerous out there. Okay, so welcome everybody. This is a recording of the webinar. We had some technical difficulties, so this is going to be assuming that you followed along right through to the downloads, but we'll do a real quick refresher. Okay. So, welcome to the webinar. You've seen our intro. Move that out the way. You know who I am. I'm the curriculum specialist. And let's just move on. So, what we have, well done to congratulations to the person who won the webinar. That's very cool. Skip that. Okay, so here's the lineup. We got through the installation of Visual Studio Code and Python, and then we ran through the Visual Studio Code and some plugins, and then when we started to get to the intro and the Tello connections, things started to get a bit whack. So without further ado, let's just do a quick recap. Downloading is pretty straightforward. You open up your favorite browser, go to the URL, click on the URL, type in python.org/download, and then you click on download Python 3.10.5. That's the current version. So once you've clicked on this button here, goes down here. Oh, I'm out the way again. Sorry. So download that. You click on that, and this menu is going to come up here. Come on. Cool. So now what you do is you download and go through your next step. So I agree. Next. Click on install. Now this is the part where you type in your password. Verify who you are. Type in your little asterisks. Okay, and put that in here. So I am password Clinton. Hit install. Done. Okay, so that will take you through the installation process, and then you go through all the end, and then it says congratulations. When you click on close, it asks you if you want to move the Python installer to the bin. You say yes, and well done. You've installed Python. Now, on a PC, same thing. You open up your browser, and I'm going to actually get out of the way, anticipating needing to click on here soon. Okay, so you go to python.org/downloads, download Python. It's the latest version for Windows, and then this file over here. Once it's downloaded, you click on that. Your installer comes up, and one thing that's very important is you'll notice that there's a little shield next to install now. On a PC, the shield means you need to be an admin or an administrator, and without the right permissions, you can't install it. So to get around that, all we need to do is to make this little shield disappear is we click on this install launcher for all users, untick that, and now you see install now makes it nice and easy. You can install it just for yourself. Now that's what you would do if you do have a problem, but otherwise I'd prefer you to click on install for launcher for all users, click on add to path, do your next. Now this part, it's black and white, it's blacked out because it won't even let me record, but this is the part where it asks you to allow the app to make changes to the system. You say yes, and then you run through the install just like that. Well done. Click on close, and you're done. Then we want to install Visual Studio Code. So we do that by doing the same thing, opening up a browser window, going up here to code.visualstudio.com, enter, and wait for it. Now, go straight up, download Mac Universal Stable. That's going to come download, same thing over here. Once it's finished, click on that. And this isn't going to run through an installer. This is just going to unzip an application file. So what we want to do is we want to drag that Visual Studio Code to the applications folder over there like that. And now I've already got Visual Studio installed. So it's going to say, hey, do you want to keep both or stop or replace? You won't see this. So I'm just going to click on stop because I've already got it installed. Now, if you click on applications and scroll all the way to the bottom, I went the other way. So now you'll see that there it is there. How cool is that? Now, if you double click on that or push Command O, it will open. Or if you do Command Space and type in code or Visual Studio, it's a nice shortcut. So you can open that. Now it's going to say, hey, this app is from the internet. Are you sure? You say sure, and bang, Visual Studio Code. Awesome. Now let's do the very same, but for PC. Okay, so same thing with the PC. I'm always in the way. Okay, so what happens? You go up to your address bar and you go code.visualstudio.com. Same thing, it's going to go and prompt you. Download for Windows the stable version, and the difference between Windows and Mac is instead of just dragging an app on Windows, you've got to click the installer and go through a series of steps. So click the installer, comes up. I've already got it installed. You might not have that, so you click on yes. I accept, which you read the terms and services, and you'll notice that it says it's got Microsoft Visual Studio Code user in brackets. That's good. That means it's for your specific user. Go through those things. Tick, 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 tick. Next. Is it that way or that way? It's probably that way because the camera switched. Goes through the install. La-di-da-di-da. And once it's finished, it's got ticked. Launch Visual Studio Code. Click Finish. And ta-da! We have Visual Studio Code. Okay, so we've opened up Visual Studio Code. Now, I want to show you a couple of things. So this is what it looks like on a Mac, and this is what it looks like on a PC. So as you can see, very, very similar. So let me highlight a couple of things, right? On the left-hand side here, we've got some names of some files. Those are the files in my project. And on this side, we have the editor, right? So this is where we type, hello, world. Cool. Okay. Then on the Mac, same thing. We've got empty files here, and this is our editor. So I just can click on a new file and go, this is going to be tello_01.py, and it already exists. There we go, have an empty file. So if I click on the file, here it is, say hello world, and as you go, you see numbers come in. Those are your lines, so it's real cool. So if you get an error on line 4, you can find that line pretty quickly, okay? So it's basically like you wouldn't write dear parents, you wouldn't write a letter here, but this is the code editor. Now, before we get started, we need to make sure that Visual Studio Code knows how to work with Python. So to do that, on your PC, you hold down Shift Control, press X. On your Mac, Shift Command X. All of a sudden, it takes you to this thing called extensions. If your keyboard shortcuts aren't working, you just move up to the top where it says File, go to View. You can go down to Extensions. And the very first thing we want to type in is Python. And what you'll see, a whole list of Python. All the ones that you haven't got installed, you can click on Install. As an option, do not install multiple Python plugins while you're getting started. Just do this top one, Microsoft IntelliSense or Pylons, right? You can see I'm running it. That's why it's got disable here. Another very cool one is if you go VS Code-icons, this will let you install a whole bunch of icons. And what those do is you will notice that up here, it's a perfect example. There's a tiny little Python icon. And on the PC, hang on, PC please, thank you. The PC, you can see next to it, I've got a little blue icon here. Let's see if I'm running VS Code on here. Icons. And it's installed. Very, very cool. It really helps with, if we just go into Explorer mode and you start to see, there's a Windows batch file. That's a PowerShell icon. So as you can see, it's nice to have that little aesthetic. It's pretty cool. Okay, back to the Mac, please. Cool. Okay, so once you've done your icons and Python, you can do some very cool things. So for example, do you use Jupyter Notebooks? You can install Jupyter, and that will literally run a Jupyter Notebook in Visual Studio Code. It is so cool. What else can we run that's pretty cool? Prettier is a pretty cool plugin. It does smart code formatting. So basically what it will do is, it's got some instructions here, but when you save your code or when you're typing code, it will make the code slightly prettier. And that's like evening out the alignments. Like if you have 3 spaces instead of 4, it'll just nudge it over. But generally it makes the code prettier. But there's so many you can think of. So the reason we want the extensions is I'll show you why in a second. Now, Shift Command E will take us back to our Explorer, which has all our files present. So I'm going to go to Tello01, and I'm going to show you what the Python does. Okay, now I'm in the way again, so if I just go, boop, that's better. Oh, see, Pretty is not running here because there's nothing to do. Go away, Prettier. My code's pretty empty at the moment. So I'm in my file called Tello_01.py. I want to do some Python. So I start typing hello world, because that's like, I heard all programmers have to type that. All of a sudden, world is underlined. And if I highlight it, it says invalid syntax. Well, that is an actual error because hello world means nothing to Python. Okay, so I've got my extensions installed into Visual Studio. I'm ready to go, but let's do a Python 101 introduction course. On the very top, if you click on terminal, you can go new. And what that means is it gives me a terminal. So this is like command prompt, and it's very cool. I can type the usual, list my directories out. I can clear my directories. Now what's cool is I can actually launch Python code. Okay, so what I can do is I'm going to test if Python's installed. So inside my terminal, I type in Python, invalid command, sad face, but, and I pressed up on my keyboard to repeat some shortcuts. Up cycles through your previous typed commands, right? If you didn't know that, makes life a lot easier. Python 3 is what I need to type on my Mac because I'm currently in my global environment. And what that means in English is I'm using Python 3, which has just been installed out of all the different Pythons that I could choose. Later on, I'm going to show you how to make a virtual environment that puts one Python installation in a fixed environment. And then when I type Python, it knows to only use one version of Python, which will make sense as we get there. So Python 3, I've now got my 3 dots. Now I am in Python. So let's begin with some introduction to Python. 5 plus 5, no, let's start with this. When I put a number into the shell, the computer spits back the number I wrote in. It goes, yep, that's a 5. I know what a 5 is. 5 plus 5, it goes, yeah, I know what a 5 plus 5 is 10. And basically, because Python is an interpreted programming language, it means I type stuff in, Python interprets it, and it does what it thinks I want it to do. It doesn't have to compile the software or build it or anything like that. But showing you how to use Python in this terminal over here, there's a better way. I can actually start writing the code in my file. So this way I can save my code as I go. I can simply do Command S. You'll notice this X turns into a little dot whenever my code's modified. Really handy if you've got multiple tabs or multiple files open and you need to realize which one you've worked on last, okay, or haven't got any saved changes. So 5. Now, 5 when I was in the shell did that. Fair enough. But now when I'm typing, if I want to view my code as I type, I can run up here and go, click on the play button. But when you take your hands off your keyboard and go to the mouse, you lose time. So quicker way, hold shift and press return. It will automatically fire up a new Python window. It does this once. And now I'm going to close this old one. But now I'm in Python and it did the 5. So I can do 5 plus 5. Shift enter. I can do 5 plus 5 plus 5. Cool. Stick to 5. So it's basic math. Now, whole numbers are integers. We can do decimals. And then Python will return back to me the decimal. I can do words. Now watch this. If I write hello world, shift enter, it says invalid syntax, hello world. It's because Python doesn't understand spoken language. If I put speech marks around hello world, shift enter, it returns hello world back to me in the form with single quotes. So basically that's a string. A string is a bit of text. And you can do this. This is very cool. And here I can tell Python type hello world. And it's going to tell me the class of that data is a string. I can say type 16. And it says it's an integer. Cool. So there's integers, there's floats, there are strings. Those are what we're going to need for the basics. Okay. Now, I'm going to call up my learn.py. And look, there's some gray writing over here. What's that all about? Well, if you start with a hash or a pound sign, we call it hashes, you can write a comment. Dear Clinton, this is a comment. Don't forget this thing. Comments are for the humans. The interpreter completely ignores anything in a comment, but future you doesn't. So you might get to some code and go, oh, what was I thinking 5 years ago? But Now we have comments, which will help you with that. So for example, here I've got understanding numbers. So shift enter 582. Fine. Numbers and operators. This is a function, by the way. When you type a certain word with brackets, that's how you call a function. Print, probably the most popular function that everyone learns when they start. So print hello world will return the word hello world to us. Now you'll notice there's no air quotes. There's no, what are these called? There are no speech marks or quote marks when I print hello world, because the interpreter is not saying, hey, this is a string. The interpreter is saying, you want me to print this to the screen? Sure, pal. And it just delivers that. So cool. So I could actually have it print 5. Or I can have it print 5 plus 5. If I did 5 plus 5, just like this, and then I ran the program without the interpreter open, or the shell, the program will go 5 plus 5 is 10, but it will never return the value 10 to the user. So I, as a programmer, need to add the print command so that when a user runs the program, it prints it back to them. So I'll get into that later on, but for now, let's just move through strings. We have 5. Clinton says jump. So you'll notice here, double quotes or double speech marks or speech marks, single quotes. Here we have single quotes, double quotes. So this is where they matter. If you have single quotes to start with, then you can use double quotes within the string. You cannot have Clinton said hi. Python will not be happy. And if I hover over it, it says syntax error, invalid syntax. It's going, no. Because as soon as you close your speech marks, Python thinks the string is finished. And you can actually see the color coding is great. It gives it away. So you'll notice the nice, pretty colors here. And then it's all of a sudden is red and underlined. No go. Okay. So we're moving pretty quickly through this. So hopefully it's not too quick. What are we looking at time-wise? Okay, we're moving fast. We're gonna go quicker. So those are some strings. Now, printing, you just print the code. It says hello world. Awesome. Now, I'm going to ask, okay, here's another one. I'm going to quickly get the computer to start learning what a word is. So I'm going to say 5 equals 5, which is great. I've now told Python, when you see this 5, and I've spelled 5, I mean the integer, the whole number, 5. Got it? Python goes, sure. Now if I say 5 plus 5, 10. 5 times 5, 25. I can print 5. And I don't need speech marks because I'm not printing the string 5. And if I did that, it prints the word 5. Because remember, whatever's in the speech marks is what it's being printed out. Python doesn't care. I could write print function in here, and Python's not going to say, do you want me to print inside a print and short circuit? It just ignores the print function, even though it's there, and it'll just use it as plain text. Okay? So hello, brilliant. Cool. Now, if you wanted to mess with people, 5 equals 6, what do you think the answer is going to be? Yes, 5 plus 5 is indeed 12. Hopefully no one overhears that because they'll think my math is completely broken. And it's also why you really want to make sure your variables are clearly defined. Because 5 plus 5, we can now say 5 plus 5 is 10. Okay, now I am going to talk to you about some variables real quick. So we'll ignore that answer here. So here we are working with variables. A variable is something we come up with. We come up with a name. In this case, it's called name. I'm not very creative with this variable, unfortunately. And then I'm giving it a string, which is going to be Clinton. And then name 2 is Victoria. And I can go print name 2. So it prints name and it prints name 2. Fantastic. That is me telling the computer what name and name 2 is. We can use this input function, which basically looks like this. So it's the input function with the brackets. We can take this input function and we can assign it a variable. So we can go username equals input. And this says, what is your name? you should always have a space before you close, because the cursor is going to start where you finish. So what that means, if I press Shift Enter, what is your name? You see my little green square is spaced neatly, one space over from the question mark. So I can say, Hello Kitty, that's my name. And now I can go and say print username, and it prints back Hello Kitty. That is so cool. Now, rapid fire. So hopefully this isn't going too fast. But like I said, this is just an introduction on 101 because we still want to get to our tellos. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to make a function, which is quite important. Print built-in function, right? So I'm going to make our own. So I'm going to say greet user, right? And when I do a greet user, I want it to print welcome person to this code, whatever. Cool. Now, in Visual Studio Code, if I move the cursor, see this little cursor moving at 51, 52, 53. If I move it above the function, I hold Shift and I move down, you'll see that I've selected all of that text. I can then do Shift Enter, and you'll notice it dumps it into my shell, nicely spaced. Very important to point out, these 4 spaces or 1 tab have to be there, because what you're saying when you create a function is this colon is saying, okay, everything under greet user, which is indented by 1, will be done when I call the function greet user. Okay, so now I can just type in greet user. I've pressed tab to auto-complete my function, enter, and it says welcome person to this code. Amazing. I want it to be better, right? So here I've got great user. I've got the variable name, and then I'm going to print concatenating the name. So what that means, I said print welcome to Python, comma, and then I end the string, and then I plus the name, then I plus the variable name. And then watch what happens. So I'm going to select, let's go to the beginning of this. So I'm going to select those 2 lines, and you'll notice Shift Enter, they're in the system. I can now go and say greet user. Now watch what happens when I just press Enter. Error, missing 1 positional argument name. Okay, fine, you want to play that game. I'll say greet user 23. Wrong, can't concatenate string and an integer. So what I have to do is I have to say greet user Sarah. Press Enter, bang. Welcome to Python, Sarah. I press up, change this to Dave. Capital letters, please. Dave. Enter, welcome to Python, Dave. How cool is that? Now, we can do something also super cool inside here, is we can take the variable and run it through the string function. So now when I do greet user 343, it replies, hey, 343, because when I do string in brackets, it turns any variable, integer, float, inside that into a string, which then allows me to concatenate it. Super cool. Now, I know what you're saying. Yeah, we get it, we know the basics. Give us some Tello stuff. Okay, cool. Let's jump onto the Tello bit. Now you'll notice the 2 dots means neither of these have been saved. So I'm going to go to my Tello code and see how we got this real cool code. I'm going to type it out in real time with you, but having to, switch, copy, paste is a real pain. One of the things Visual Studio does that's super cool, up here, split the columns into 2, which is so cool. So now over here, I can open up Tello, close that. And over here, I can have my other Tello. I've got my line numbers, and I can start writing code. So I'm just going to exit this terminal quickly. Exit. Cool. Clear. Now, another very important thing is I'm about to install a module into, where's it gone? I'm about to install some libraries that I need to make the Tello work. But I don't want to just install them into my computer and have them all over the place. I want to keep it nice and neat. So what we need to do, we type in Python 3-m venv. So this means create a virtual environment. So think of it this way. When you go to the snow for a vacation, you pack certain things in a suitcase for the snow. Go to the beach, different suitcase. Or maybe it's the same suitcase with different contents. I don't know. In this case, I'm going to call this webinar. But you can call it VENV or Project One or whatever you want to call your virtual environment. So all this is going to do is it's going to make a suitcase of Python that I can install specific things to that'll be locked in that suitcase and it won't affect any other programs on my computer. It is so cool. Now watch this. I press enter. All of a sudden up here we have webinar. It's created some Python install here. It also says we've noticed a new virtual environment's being created. Do you want to select it for your workspace? I say yes. Now, super subtly, over here, if I click on my Python install down here, it will tell you Python 3.10.5. This is the Python in the webinar folder. If I go exit, I've closed the terminal. Now when I go back and create a new terminal, check how cool this is. Bang. Webinar, that's the name of the virtual environment, and the folder I'm in is here. So what's really cool about this is if I install Python 5 in the future and 5 breaks my code, doesn't matter because in this particular project, if I'm in my virtual environment, it will use Python. And you notice I didn't have to type in Python 3. I just typed in Python because in my virtual environment, there is only one Python, and that's the Python that we use to make the environment. What a mouthful. Okay, exit. How are we going for time? Got to speed it up. So to make our magical Tellos work, we need to install a magical util that a lot of the wonderful team at DroneBlocks have been putting together. Amazing work they've done. So to get that done, in your terminal, you type in pip install. Pip install is a built-in Python command that lets you install libraries from around the world. So we're going to install pip install DroneBlocks-Python-utils. I'll leave that up for a second and I'll do a bit of talking. So by pressing enter, I'm going to go to the Python repository, say, hello, I'd like this, please. It's going to go through the list, find it, install it onto my computer, press enter, watch what happens. Boom, 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 boom. It's done a whole bunch of installing. It's running some setup files. And now if I open my webinar folder and I open the lib folder, you'll see all these all these folders have been installed, including our DroneBlocks code. Check this. This is so cool. There's so much stuff in here, but very confusing, very full on. Yikes. So we like to keep it nice and simple. But everything that we need is now sitting inside here. So let's get on with the Tello part. So now that I've installed the DroneBlocks util, I can open up my Python shell. And this line over here, the first line, which is from DroneBlocks, and what you'll notice is as I'm starting to type, Visual Studio Code is giving me suggestions. So it's telling me from DroneBlocks, did you want the DroneBlocks Tello module? I say yes. I'm going to say import DroneBlocks, and it's going to autocomplete to DroneBlocks Tello, which is this line over here. Amazing. Then I'm also going to import time. Wish we could import more time in our life. So what this means is I'm going to be able to use the concept of time in my code. And let's get started by creating an instance of Tello. Tello. So what this is going to do is it's going to say, hey, create a variable or an object called Tello. This could be anything. This could be my Tello, Droney Tello, or whatever. I'm just going to use Tello for this example. So it says create Tello and initialize using this code. So I'm going to go Shift Enter, and you'll see it does this install here. I'm also going to stick a battery in my Tello. I'm going to turn it on. While that's waiting, let's see, did I get a good battery? Oh, flashing. Things are happening. Things are happening. I'm pretty sure I charged all my batteries, but of course, Murphy's Law, as soon as you need them. Okay, so. Ooh, that's a bad battery. I think I got a good one. Okay, so now I'm back to my 3 little chevrons from Tello, import, it's done. Cool. So now I can start to work with this Tello. So the very first thing I want to do is go Tello connect, Shift Enter. Oops, I missed the stop. Sorry. Import time. We'll make mistakes. I got distracted with the batteries. So I've gone and done my shift enter to import time. I'm now going to launch the Tello equals DroneBlocks Tello, and spelling matters. Oh, it's been one of those webinars, right? Okay, so Tello equals, okay. I'm now going to launch. I made a mistake here. It actually is meant to say DroneBlocks, not DroneBlock. Shift enter. Now, it says it's created an instance of Tello with the host there. At this point, now that my computer is listening for the Tello, I go to my wireless adapter. I look for my Tello. It's on another network. There it is, my Robo Master Tello Talent. Once I've connected, if the Wi-Fi sticks, we're going to see some cool stuff. It has. Now if I go do Shift LO on Tello.connect, amazing. It just said response OK. This is where we can do some cool stuff now. Now I can go Tello.get underscore and look at all these things auto-completing. This is why I love Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to go give me battery. It auto-completes the brackets. I press Shift Enter. Bang, 89% battery. Amazing. Now I can start doing some cool things like Tello.takeoff. Now, I will do the flights when I'm not in such a small space, but we'll get there. So, Tello.takeoff, my drone's going to take off. Tello rotate clockwise, auto rotates clockwise by 90 degrees. So, Tello.rotate clockwise, X is 90. It will do a 90-degree turn. So, with that being said, we're going to make a quick function, as we discussed earlier. So instead of going Tello.getBattery every time, right, 88%, so I'm on a clear schedule, I can say def bat report, and this code needs to return. Return means the function will just return a value of something, battery. Right, so I can highlight those. Remember that's highlighted. Shift Enter will execute that. Even has the little indent. Beautiful. So now if I go bat report, 88. So much easier than typing Tello.getBattery, etc. So I can just go bat report, and because it's returning a function, I can use this in a if statement. So let's write an if statement together. Okay. So I'm just going to go and say if bat report comes back higher than 50, print let's fly. Oh, sorry. Let's fly. Cool. Sounds about right. Perfect. Now, let's see what happens. If bat report higher than 50, let's fly. Apparently, it is higher than 50. Let's be extremely ambitious and say if bat report higher than 90, nothing happens. Okay, so we're going to go 50 and let's fly. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to print bat report. Okay, cool. So now I'm reselecting the text. Shift Enter, and you'll see every time I do that, it reruns the code. So now it says, let's fly 86%. That is so cool. But this is a bit annoying. So I'm now going to make a new function. Def battery status. That's a bit vague. So let's go def pre-flight check. That's cool. Now my pre-flight check, I know it says battery status here, but we're doing it live. We're making some changes. So we're going to say if we can do the use a function inside a function, but let's keep it clean. So now we're going to if Tello, we're just going to get the battery. If that is greater than 70%, what we're going to do is we're going to say print drones up. Okay. And then what we're going to do, yeah, like we did earlier, we're going to say space plus string Tello. And you'll notice why I'm doing all of this is I'm basically putting things in brackets and brackets to make it look all intimidating, but it's not really. So we're going to go get the battery, and then we're going to go back to saying concatenate. So we'll go plus, and we'll do the speech box. We'll say percent battery left, and we'll break this down in a second. Okay. Cool. So I've pushed all of this, and I'm going to make some more space here quickly. And what we have done here, we've said, hey, we've made a function called pre-flight check. So now I can just type in pre-flight check. And I'll tell you what I've done wrong here. I have got this needs to be in there, and this needs to be there. Sorry. Yep, I thought my little brackets were. Perfect. Okay, so create the function called pre-flight check. The function checks if the battery is greater than 70%, and if it is, it prints drones up because convert string, the integer that we get back, the value which is a number, gets converted to a string, and then we add the percent sign. You'll notice there's a space here, but there's no space there. And now, if I do pre-flight check, drones up, 84% battery left. Amazing. Now, with an if statement, we can also do else. Now, else says, do this if this happens, or for every other value, do this. So we're going to say print, not enough power, Captain. Okay, so I'm going to highlight all of this again, shift enter. Now I'm going to run pre-flight. Still got 84%. Because I haven't flown yet. Right, and I do apologize. I know this is going quite long, and this is super fire, quick, but was trying to give people from all walks of life enough to play with, and you can break this down and rewatch some things, but there will be a much clearer Python tutorial coming soon. So now what I've got is this is basically to show you how we create a function called pre-flight check. We do an if statement, so if the battery is higher than 70, we could probably be lenient and say 30, and then we say print drones up with the string of the battery life, etc. Otherwise, print not enough, Captain, not enough power, Captain. And remember, all I'm doing is I'm highlighting my code and doing shift enter to type what I've got here into my Python shell so I can exercise the Python stuff in real time. Otherwise, my other option is I save this program and I launch it in the terminal every time. So this is just a quick way to code and test things. Now, I'm going to do another quick one for you, and then we'll call this up. Okay, so before I go and run this, let's just do the pre-flight check once again. Drones up 59%. Okay, my battery's running really low. I'm in a small space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call up the video that I showed everyone live on the webinar, and I'll talk you through that. One moment, please, caller. Okay, so let's create the function. So function square mission column. Okay, speed mode time. Okay, so made the function. So the first thing that drone does is it takes off. So we'll go Tello.takeoff. Brilliant. Now, we covered the loop. So we went 4i in range 4. So this is saying whatever I'm about to type in this indent, do 4 times. And that was time.sleep. So basically, so your Tello drone has time to actually gather its thoughts before the next Python command, we do this. Because for Python, it goes like this. Tello takeoff, Tello forward, Tello turn, Tello takeoff, Tello turn, rapid fire, and you have to go wait. Tello, take off. Now, it waits 3 seconds. Then it says, hey, 1, 2, 3. Tello, move forward 100 centimeters. But Python, wait 3 seconds before you tell Tello what to do. Tello's going to need time to actually process that thought. Okay? So then we go, okay, it has its time to sleep. And then we go like this. Tello, what are you going to do? You're going to rotate clockwise 90 degrees. Fantastic. And then after that, it goes back up to the sleep 3 seconds. Forward, wait 3 seconds. Rotate, and so on and so forth 4 times. Then off to the program, Tello.land. And I'm going to highlight all of this. Cool. Then you run this. And rather than crashing in the small recording studio, I'm going to show you the video. One moment, please, caller. Okay, so here I am calling up this mission. Let's go. So it launches, and now watch what happens. So the drone takes off. It's quite loud, actually. And now our lovely cat Tara is checking it out. And now this is what I want to pay attention to, right? So we'll just pause this. Right now, Tello.py, this is part of the module that we're calling inside the library, because you'll notice that I didn't do Tello.py. And then what it does is it goes and says, send the command takeoff. Then the Tello gets a little command that goes, okay, waiting for it, gets the response, okay. So then it takes off. Now, let's watch what happens. Send command forward 100. Our Python command of Tello.move forward 100 is translated into forward 100, which the Tello understands. Then it goes, okay, now what? Then it goes, hey, CW, clockwise, 90. Okay, cool. Now what? Okay. And then you go, cool, forward 100. Cool, I got that. Then it says, okay, now what? So you see why we have those pauses, the time.sleep3 is so that the Tello has time to actually process the Python code, which goes really quickly. And then it says clockwise 90, forward, and I make a comment about crashing into the TV, which we didn't do. But look at this. Wait. Oh, look. Misses the table. Ridiculous. And then the cat's like, mine. Hang on. Which takes us to the end of this extremely rapid fire webinar. I hope that you have found some value that you can take into the classrooms, or that you learn something new with Python, even if it's just about the VS Code icons or even prettier. It's pretty cool. So I want to show you one last thing before I go. And this is going to be quite fun. So function safe to fly. Cool. And all this does is it says, this is quite a fun one I can do live. I can say ons equals input. Is it safe to fly? Space. Oops. And I go like this. If answer double equals yes, then Tello.takeoff. Oops. Else print. Well, maybe next time. Okay. So what this code's going to do, I'm going to just load it in quickly. I want to show something really cool. Okay. I am going to run this function. The variable ans, or answer, is going to ask me if it's safe to fly. I'll write in yes. If the characters I type in are yes, it will then fly. If not, it will say better luck next time. But what I want to show, this is just a bonus to take with you, yes and the double equals. So when I do one equal sign, that is called assignment. ANS, assigned to input, is it safe to fly? So whatever I type in the input is what it's assigned to. Answer double equals is comparing. Is it like this? So 1 equals is assign, 2 equals is compare. There's the cool thing. I'm going to run my code now quickly. Safe to fly. Is it safe to fly? YES. Oh, well, maybe next time. But I just said yes. That's weird. Python is very, very specific. So it has to be exactly the same. Case sensitive, everything. So we can run a method called .lower on the input, right? So I'll rerun that. What it's going to do is it's going to convert whatever I type to lowercase. So now I'm going to say actually add print awesome drones up. And I'm going to code all of this. And now I'm going to say safe to fly. I'm going to take off in front of the lights and everything. So here's hoping. This is a bonus because, you know, why not? Run the code. Is it safe to fly? yes. Wonderful. And now my Tello is actually going too high. So I'm quickly going to go Tello.land. Woo! Easy, Tello. How cool was that? I wish you guys could see I caught it. So there you go. Something cool for you to do. Take away this .lower method to convert your answers into lowercase. Makes it easier to compare. And yeah, that is Python and Tello's introduction. Thank you so much for watching. If those of you who saw the webinar with the technical difficulties, thanks for sticking in there. And hopefully, I know this is a bit of a rehash and it might be a little bit different. Try to add a bit like the safe to fly thing so you can get some more value rewatching this. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the DroneBlocks curriculum, right? You can watch some of my videos there. See you later.